This is what didn't know about back with another video. Say dog. I'm reacting to JJ Redick reacting to the Pascal Siakam trade. Now, I'm not the biggest JJ Redick fan. Actually, I don't like him. I think he's the NBA's biggest propagandist. He's a player propagandist. I'm just not the biggest fan of him. I think he's a capper. He caps for players. I feel like he disrespected the old school players. I'm just not the biggest fan of JJ Redick. His takes, he think he's too smart. He think he just has the greatest takes of all time. I loved him as a player. I loved him as a player. I rooted for him at Duke when everybody hated him. I love JJ Redick as a player, but as a broadcaster, analyst, or whatever, he's just a bit pretentious, annoying. Just in my opinion. Just in my opinion, I think he's pro player, pro the era that he played, and it is what it is. But let's just get into the video.
Traded for Pascal Siakam from the Toronto Raptors. Bruce Brown, 3 first-round picks, 2 this year. My understanding is it's the Pacers' own pick, and then the worst of, I think, OKC, Houston, and the Jazz, whichever pick is worst, and their 2026, their own pick as well. Jordan Nwora in that deal as well. New Orleans got involved to skate the luxury tax, sending Kyra Lewis and couple second-round picks to Toronto. Tommy, I have a lot of thoughts, and all very positive. First of all, if I quickly on the Raptors, this felt like a long time coming, and the reports were that Siakam actually wanted to stay in Toronto and make this a long-term thing and help with whatever sort of rejiggering of the roster was going on. Them losing Fred VanVleet last year in free agency, I think, had a real impact on both the Siakam trade and the OG Anunoby trade, because they lost Fred for nothing.
Yep.
And we've seen Fred and his impact on winning in Houston. So I think Toronto made the right decision. This was a team that was going to be stuck in the middle, and you get the picks. They've got young guys now in RJ Barrett and Emmanuel Quickley, Scotty Barnes, of course. You can sort of build and look for the future. I think about it this way with Siakam. He clearly makes the Indiana Pacers better, but I also think the Indiana Pacers are going to make him better. And that's talking about someone that has made 2 All-Star games, 2 All-NBA teams, made an All-Star game last year, having another All-Star-esque season.
Watch how he found a way to spin it and make this a Tyrese Haliburton type of thing. Why he loves Tyrese Haliburton. It's one of JJ Redick guys. He made Tyrese Haliburton more famous than a lot of he just made Tyrese Haliburton so famous. JJ Redick is like a fucking Joe Rogan of basketball, bro. He puts on his guys. He got Mikal Bridges. He got Tyrese Haliburton, things of that nature. If you know, you know. Tyrese Haliburton is his guy, and watch how he's spitting this for Tyrese Haliburton favor. I haven't watched this video, but I'm just at this point, I know JJ Redick sauce, bro.
Season this year.
Damn, this is actually really, really clever. Video AI. Let's make a video for TikTok. We're going to enter our...
There was one particular point about his offensive game, and I think we can get into everything, that I wanted to sort of bring up and ask you about first. He's shooting 50.9% from 3 in his last 20 games, shooting 49% on corner threes. But the way they play, we've talked a lot about the record-setting pace that offense has been on with Tyrese, obviously when he's healthy in there. From a shooting standpoint, because Siakam started the year not shooting very well, from a shooting standpoint, do you think that this is going to open that up for him? And should we expect those numbers to continue? Maybe not that high, but somewhere in that range of a 45 plus.
I always say shooting begets shooting. And so when you have spacing and when you have multiple guys on the court that are at least threats from 3, I think that allows for easier opportunities for everyone to shoot the basketball. Indiana Pacers right now, 6th in made threes, 10th in three-point attempts, 7th in three-point percentage. Clearly one of the best shooting teams in the NBA. So Siakam is going to have space. And he's going to have space to drive. He's going to have space to cut. He's been an excellent cutter all year. Here's the thing. This is the really interesting thing. Shout out to Matthew Williams, who just sent this over to me about 5 minutes ago. The Raptors are first in the NBA right now in fast break points.
The Raptors are.
Guess who's second?
Indy.
Indiana Pacers, second in the
The
NBA.
Does the Raptors feel more surprising than Indy
It
being
does.
there? Does
Here's
make
the
sense.
thing: Siakam leads the NBA in field goal percentage in transition. Tyrese Haliburton leads the NBA in assists in transition. You talk about the spacing.
That's a good point. The Pacers and the Raptors both play fast. Siakam is a good transition player, but you just see how JJ Redick threw Tyrese Haliburton in there. I get it. I get why he's doing it, but everybody that knows basketball know this was a pretty solid fit. But he's just gonna keep on hammering on the Tyrese Haliburton. The fact that he's got the angle that the Pacers is going to make Siakam better instead of the other way around is crazy. Dude was an all NBA player. He was second option on the championship team. He's finna spin this. I'm just
Pacers right now, everybody thinks of them as, we're going to play at a fast pace and shoot threes. They lead the NBA in paint points. They lead the NBA in most made layups and dunks. And Pascal Siakam right now is on pace to set his career high for most layups and dunks made per game. This is, to me, a perfect fit offensively. This is the number one team, the team with the greatest offensive efficiency so far in NBA history. And to me, they're adding a guy that fits perfectly.
Isn't it weird for a guy that's made multiple All-NBA teams that you're like, he could actually get better?
Yeah, and he's turning 30 in April. He's still in the prime of his career. There was that Ringer article from earlier in the season about Tyrese Haliburton and him wanting to just build and recruit and make the Indiana Pacers a destination because of him.
Yeah.
Because of him. So I like this move for Indy, even though Siakam, of course, there's no assurances.
Haliburton glaze is at an all-time high with JJ Redick. Carry on.
He will resign. They gave up a lot of future draft capital for this. But if it goes well and Haliburton can convince this guy that, this is a perfect fit for you, which I think it should be, then I would love to see this be a long-term thing for the Indiana Pacers.
With the Pacers defensively, it's been obviously it's been a weakness, I would say, over the course of the year, but they've been 16th in defensive efficiency over the last couple of weeks. They're 23-17 now. They're 3.5 games out of the 3 seed. You've watched almost all of their games over the last couple of weeks. Have you seen an improvement there, or does this feel like a little bit of a flash in the pan? And where do you think he's going to help them defensively?
I think they have improved. To me, they have shown flashes of sustained defensive effort. I think that.
Watch, he not gonna call out how bad Tyrese Haliburton is on defense. Tyrese Haliburton is up there with Dame in terms of just not even trying, not even caring. Let's just get back on O. But he not gonna say nothing about Tyrese Haliburton defense. Well, I'm not expecting him to, but let's carry on.
That's the biggest thing for me is like personnel-wise, Tyrese is not great. Buddy Hield is not great. TJ McConnell, as hard as he plays and as much as he fights, a lot of times he has a size disadvantage. Turner, of course, is going to protect the rim, but in space and then getting into rotations, they haven't been great.
Yeah.
And so what I've seen is a sustained level of effort from them. I think Siakam helps on the personnel standpoint just because of his.
He kind of mentioned Tyrese Haliburton not being good on defense, but he threw everybody else under the bus with him. So I'm not counting it.
Length and his size. Does this make them a contender in the East? I guess that's the question. I don't think I'm there yet. This was a very fun basketball team that just got more fun.
For sure.
If they weren't in your top 5 in League Pass before this trade, they're certainly going to be after.
I was going to ask you. You've played against him for years. Played against him in the playoffs.
Yeah.
We've had him on the show. I think that everyone who sort of knows basketball knows how good he is and has been and everything like that. But he hasn't necessarily gotten as much love as he didn't when Kawhi was there. Like, he's been a guy that has flown under the radar, even making those all NBA teams. I'm like, what do you, just from a pure entertainment standpoint, because he can do a lot of different things. I think besides him just playing with Tyrese, is there anything else you're like, oh, this could unlock being in an offense like this? Because those Toronto offenses were never, no one's been like Pacers are, but they've never been an offense that has been like consistently a top 2, top 3 offense in the league.
I think this go back to the spacing, of course. They're a team that plays fast. I think it fits his desire. He's going to ISO. I like him when he's making quick decisions. He clearly can pass the ball. You think about the lack of shooting on the floor at times with him, with the Raptors. They're 26th in three-pointers made and 23rd in three-point percentage. And yet he was still having a career high in layups and dunks.
Yeah.
So he's going to have more space to operate. I had somebody, guys, I got to be honest with you. Oh, I got to be honest with you. I don't ever know what Jason and Richie and Nicole are going to post on social media. I literally don't know. Jason even asked me today, he's like, what do you want for the teaser for the Franz video? And I'm like, dude, it's your job. You do it as well as anyone in this industry.
Don't
care.
Get fired. Just don't get fired. All it is don't put something in that's going to get you fired.
But the other day, I didn't know this was going to be a thing, but the other day, they posted my rant with Steven Nikias about the non-traditional point guard. And someone brought up Tyrese Haliburton as being a traditional point guard. I'm like, I don't see that. If you think Tyrese Haliburton is a traditional point guard, then we need to define what a traditional point guard is. Is it someone who gets assists? Because I got to be honest with you, a lot of guys get assists that aren't point guards. Nikola Jokic gets assists, and he's not a point guard. Trae Young is not a traditional point guard, and he gets a lot of assists. Assists are not the marker of a traditional point guard. I just want to say that. One thing about Tyrese that I fucking love is the way he just gets off the ball. That's not a...
Did I tell y'all how he was going to spin it and just make this about Haliburton?
A traditional point guard.
Yeah.
That's orchestrating every single fucking play. Tyrese Haliburton is going to get an outlet pass, and he's going to look up the floor, and if you're open, he's going to kick it ahead.
Getting it. Yeah.
And he doesn't worry about getting it back and then manipulating things in the half court. He just plays, right? He's going to feed Siakam in transition, after misses, after makes. This is how the Pacers play. All of a sudden, Siakam's got a head of steam with shooting around him. Come on, man. He's going to be really, really good for Indiana.
Do you think you mentioned the OG trade as well? The timing of this. I mean, obviously, we're not in these rooms. We don't know for sure on anything. But the OG trade happening on December 30th or December 29th or whatever, is this trade happening now? Is this more of a case of Toronto being we're going to make sure that we get this right before bringing it up to the deadline, or a team like Indy being we actually think we can make a run at this. Let's see if we can line this up now. I know Tyrese isn't back yet, but by the time he gets back, Pascal had a couple of weeks of sort of acclimating to the new system and everything like that, and really setting themselves up for what could be a sustained playoff push.
On the Pacers point, every team is always trying to get better. Every team that's in the win now mode, I should say, is always trying to get better. So the Boston Celtics right now, Brad Stevens is trying to figure out how to add a rotation piece for the playoffs. Yeah. They've got the trade accept. Every team that is in win now mode is looking to add.
Yeah.
There's not a GM out there that is I'm completely satisfied with that roster. I think in the Pacers case, I think they're clearly a fun team that can win ball games, that can outscore you. And whether they're a piece away or two pieces away prior to this trade, they felt like this is an opportunity to improve the roster and improve the team. Whether that vaults them into Eastern Conference contention, and whether they think that or not, that's up to them. I'm not there yet.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm with JJ Redick on this. I do think they gave up very little. This was a good trade for them. The 3 first-round picks, either 1 and 26 maybe, but them 2 and 24 is supposed to be a weak class. Ain't none of them dudes gonna be better than Siakam, most likely. Bruce Brown, Jordan Wara. Come on now. You didn't have to give up Isaiah Jackson, Jalen Smith. You didn't have to give up Mathurin. You didn't have to give up Nembhard. You kept everybody you wanted to keep. You gave up some guys that you really didn't want. You gave up some picks that probably aren't going to be relevant to you because you've been picking and you got a lot of players that's young. You got a lot of players that's mid-age. So this was a good trade for Indiana to bring in a guy that you probably wouldn't go get in free agency. The only question is, will he resign? But other than that, this was a good trade for the Pacers. Now, I don't believe this moves the needle for him, but just adding a guy next to Haliburton that can get his own shot and just bring a little bit more star power to Indiana, it's good. It's cool.
It relates to the Raptors. I go back to last year again, where they're just in trade rumors. They end up hanging on to these guys. They lose in the play-in tournament. They don't make the playoffs. They're coming off a season where they lose to Philly in the first round. I think that the writing's on the wall. And so if you're Masai, if you're Bobby Webster, you're looking at return. What is a palpable return? Because if you wait and wait and wait again, maybe a palpable return doesn't happen again.
Yeah. Or maybe Indy goes and gets someone else.
Yeah.
And then you're holding the bag again.
Yeah. Exactly.
I kind of agree on that point. Sorry, I don't have the YouTube premium. But yeah, that's it, man. Yeah. So that was the JJ Redick trade reaction. I agree with some of the stuff he said, but a lot of that stuff he just was propping up Tyrese Haliburton and how Tyrese Haliburton finna enhance Siakam and not the other way around. He harped on that more than the other way around. But me personally, I think Siakam is gonna benefit them guys more than he's going to be benefited, even though he's going to benefit from the space. And like JJ Redick said, but he's an all-NBA guy. He's a proven guy. Second option on the championship team. Got his team as a number one option to the playoffs. Always had the Raptors in playoff contention. It just didn't work in Toronto. I think he's going to be the best player on the Pacers until proven otherwise as an all-around player. And we go see that. Tyrese Haliburton is the most important player, but just best basketball player. Siakam about 6'9", been an all-NBA guy, been a great player on the championship team. So, but you spend it however you want. This is a good trade for Toronto, for the Pacers. I feel like the Raptors should at least win and get after a Nembhard or Isaiah Jackson. I didn't like that. But all in all, JJ Redick was cool. I liked his reaction. He was mostly right on a lot of things. I felt the same way. But him talking about the traditional point guard and all that shit with Tyrese Haliburton, okay, we get the Tyrese Haliburton propaganda. We get it. JJ Redick loves Tyrese Haliburton. But yeah, this your boy Diddy Noseball. Make sure you like, comment, subscribe. Let me know if y'all want to see more of these reactions to when stuff happens. But yeah, I'm out.
Found some shit I love to do, so I can live comfortable. Searching for a peace of mind, need that when it's time to rhyme. Perfect in every line, any chance I get, and I know it takes time, but I will never quit.